It's said that life is a journey best traveled with friends.
Along the way are adventures and misadventures. But if you're Miz Mel's friend, you'll find some Miz adventures.
Join Miz Mel for misadventures with friends and explore the paths of friendship.
Welcome to you. I'm your hostess, Miz Mel, and today on Miz Adventures with Friends, I'll be visiting with my friend, Allie. Yay! Welcome, Allie. I'm really glad to have you as my friend. I was trying to remember the other day how long we'd known each other, and I realized how quickly the last 3 years had gone because we were in a group together and we had to alter our plans for meeting together in 2020. So it goes past that. So it's at least 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't.
Wait, I think 2020 blurred the lines of time.
It did. We just fell into a, time continuum vortex.
So
whirlpool.
we met in 2019.
2019, yeah. I guess.
Yes, because you met my parents when they were visiting.
That's right.
So they were here 2019. So for sure it was at least 2019.
Yes.
Wow.
Yay. But it seems like we've always been friends, though.
I know.
It's just we've had such a
Connection.
almost an instant connection, instant bond. In case you can't tell, there is a difference in accent between the two of us. It's really obvious that I'm from the South. There's no getting around that. And Allie is from
the north, except the north of a different country, north in Italy.
North in Italy. And she's had quite an adventure in her life getting from Italy to where she is now, down in the southern states. And I might let her share a little bit about that in just a bit. But first we're going to start off with what we start with everybody. Allie, what is your definition of friendship?
Well, the Oxford Dictionary would give a very precise. Mine is vague. Like, friendship has so many different faces. So I don't think I want to define friendship. It's too big to be confined in, few lines of a definition. I've been thinking about this recently, and I think friendship means or can be defined in many different ways, and it is unique to every individual and who you meet. So I cannot define it.
Well, that's a cop-out answer for a college professor, which is... When you started with the Oxford Dictionary, I thought, okay, she's going to give me a college professor answer on this, which it's what her career is as a college professor. And I'm sure in your line of work, you've seen a lot of strange friendships develop amongst your students. Was talking with another of our mutual friends, Sarah Beth.
Yes.
And she gave me a unique perspective on watching friends and friendships with her high school students. You're teaching in a college platform. You don't get as close to myself. I did that gig for a while, for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. Ooh, yeah. Because I taught at
the lines of time be blurred again.
Two different colleges, 2 different stints, and it was a really strange kind of thing to watch the students and try to get to know them, but not really get to know them. So your friendship viewpoint in college is with your colleagues.
Right. Well, there are 2 things I say. On the one hand, the relationship with the students and friendships. I have to say that in the years that I've been at the institution where I am, I have seen, there is a expiration date to some extent. When you meet a student, you know that in the best case scenario, they're going to be with you for 4 years. best case scenario, if you meet them right at the beginning. But through the years with some students, I actually was able to develop a kind of friendship that it's difficult. You know, when I said you can't define friendships, and I think that that's what it is, because, well, professors shouldn't be friends with their students, but really when you think about the rapport, that is not just simply the one in the classroom where you are instructing them on specific topics, but it's one that goes beyond the classroom, beyond the office, and into your home for dinners and conversations that are filled with hopes, expectations, and dreams. Of course, in this type of friendship, I sit on the higher chair, meaning not that I'm higher from a hierarchical point of view, but I see further because I'm more experienced. So it's a friendship where I am pouring in a lot of the experiences that I already gone through, but at the same time I'm receiving from them energy and passion and renewed hope to some extent, because I can see life through their eyes again, like when I was in college. So it's a different, but there is an expiration date, meaning 4 years from now, I know you're going to take off. And, some are local, you might see them. Some others, you're saying goodbye, and maybe you get the invitation to their wedding in a couple of years or in a couple of days, whatever it is. Some will stop by just to say hi while they're here. And it's hard. It's hard because it's a friendship where your first temptation is to hold back because you don't want to say goodbye. You're going to have to say goodbye.
Yeah, you don't want to get too close.
Yeah.
Take them on the way. I remember that. It's been quite a while since I was in that kind of a career. 30 years, actually, since I taught in a larger college. Still wasn't a real big one, but some of the students that I was able to get close to, it was a shared interest in the subject that I was teaching, shared experiences, because that particular subject took a lot of hours after the classroom to put together things and produce a product, artistic product.
Right.
And I did get to know some of the students a little bit better, and it was tough to see them graduate.
I know.
And go off and know that you probably never would see them again.
And I don't think it's because they don't want to see you, you don't want to see them. It's just they get you walk with them, and then you wave and you say goodbye, and you hope that sometimes in the future. But it's one of those friendships that, okay, see you later.
Yeah, exactly. I have actually kept up with one of my students. Of all the dozens, I've kept up with one of the students two of the students that I have. One lives in Japan, and another one lives in another southern state. And I do hear from her occasionally. Hopefully I can get her on the podcast as well, because it'll be nice. Interesting to get her perspective of our friendship that started when she was a mere kid in college. Okay. I wasn't that much older at the time, but it's fond memories to think back on those students that you got to know just a little bit, and
you get emotional. It's like, remember.
You wonder where they are and who they are and what they are at this point in their lives, and then you think about, oh my gosh, those students that I taught 30 years ago are now in their 50s. What?
That is when you realize, wait, did I age?
I didn't age. They aged, but I didn't age. Come on. That's no fair. Well, you brought up the workplace. We talked about that. Mm-hmm. What about friendships in the workplace? It's a different atmosphere, obviously, than being in an office, or being in an industry or that kind of thing. What can you build in friendships that doesn't end up being a competition?
Oof. You're talking, and there's this one word that was buzzing in my head, was ego. The academic world is known because people are, kind of holding tight to their egos, and that often prevents those relationships that we're talking about. I think it's truly, I'm a fairly easygoing person. It doesn't take much for me to get to know people. And I have to say that I am lucky to be surrounded at work by people that I consider my friends. And it's not true for every department in the institution where I work. It's true for, though, for a good number of us that work and we see each other as not just colleagues but true friends. Do we have a lot of time to spend together outside? No, that's why when I said definition of friend, how much do you go, I don't know, go out for drinks, for dinners and stuff like that, or hang out? It's not always possible because, again, outside of our offices, we're busy with family and other things happening that keep us, running. But at the same time, I know that maybe it's not a definition, but it's what is friendship is knowing that the other person knows you for really who you are, past the superficial image that you have to, of course, put up in front of students, or like the professional version of you. There's also that deep personal connection that is formed, and I can say it's phenomenal because, again, we spend so many hours of the day together that I'm glad to say that my colleagues are my friends. And how do we find moments? Well, often is venting moments. What do we have in common? Can I just vent for a second? Can I tell you what just happened? And then Fridays, I have my colleague sits in an office right next to mine, and she comes and plops on my chair with her little laptop, and she's working, grading, prepping for other lectures, and we chat and we decompress together. And I think that is forming a bond. And then we see each other also. We don't live far from each other, so we get to see each other outside of the office, and occasional dinners and pool time now that it's summertime. But and I think it's important in the workplace to actually build those relationships because, work is already stressful in itself, and having companionship with the people around you and not having to constantly watch your back or, keep your guard up, but you know that your friends are there and they're there to occasionally say, a word of encouragement, or just that look they give, they look at you and they already know what's going on, and they bring you, I don't know, a donut or a candy or a candle with lavender infused candle to just
calm you
de-stress.
down.
My thing is that those who know me, they know I am, when I'm stressed, marshmallows are my sinful indulgence.
Oh, I'm gonna have to remember that.
And so oftentimes they would come in and say, I can see you, and they slip onto my desk a pack of marshmallows. So that's good. You gotta have those friends around you close during the work week, not just a weekend.
Right. Oh, goodness. You and I both are older than Sarah Beth. We talked with her earlier, just a little bit older than her. And I know I'm a little bit older than you. How has your perspective on friendships changed over the years? When did you first recognize the fact that, hey, it's cool to have a friend? Or had your first BFF? And then how has your perspective on what's important in friendships changed over the years?
Ooh. Once upon a time, there was a little girl that was super, super, super insecure about friendships. And I think it was the number of friends that surrounded you was very, very important. And this idea of a best friend that was to be your everything. That, through the years really changed, in part due to the fact that I moved around so much that, it was just impossible to maintain that kind of mindset, the one best friend. But it kind of morphed into, well, you can have several, maybe not best friends, maybe are best friends. I'm not too sure, but I think that now I'm less about the one best friend, but that circle of trusted friends that are there. You can call them best friends, but you know that in a heartbeat they would drop everything to be right there, to hold your hand, to let you cry on their shoulder, and they are best. Even if they are even if you see them once every 10 years. But little young Alessandra thought that your best friend would be the one that you would see every day, talk to her hours and hours every day, like the constant presence. And I think that's changed. Your best friend, no matter where or when, they're gonna be there. And even if, again, you talk to them or see them every 10 years, or hopefully not, but it doesn't matter, because they know you, and they will be ready to drop everything to be with you. So that's kind of my new refined expectation, not definition, but expectations and conviction, that those are the friends you want to keep around.
Yes, because I know I can call you anytime I need to.
I know,
And
right?
you're there. Yeah, that's great. I want to take a short break, just a very quick little pause here, and we'll get back on the conversation in just a minute.
You're listening to Misadventures with Friends.
Oh, welcome back. We are here talking with my friend Allie, and we're having I don't know if we're having a misadventure, a Ms. adventure. We haven't been on too many actual physical adventures together, but we've been on some adventures.
Yes, we have.
We share a common adventure in being parents.
Yes.
And my children are grown. That doesn't mean I don't still parent them. I still parent them. And Allie's kids are getting older as well. You have one in college and one in high school still. Let's talk about that parental view of friendships. Should parents be aware of their children's friendships?
I thought you were going to ask me, should parents be friends with their children? That's the other big topic, but we'll table that for a moment. Yes. As a matter of fact, but it's a yes with caution. I think that having, and I'm not an expert, I'm not pretending to be an expert. I'm still navigating very turbulent waters, especially with my daughter being at the peak of hormonal teenage years. And I have to say that it's trial and error. I do remember, though, growing up, my mom did not like one of my best friends from high school, and she was very, very open with me. She didn't like her, and I don't even remember if she ever really explained why she didn't like my friend. Now I look back as a parent, and I can tell you why my mom didn't like, and she had all the good reasons why she didn't like my friend. But of course, the fact that my mom didn't like my friend annoyed me, made me want to spend more time with my friend, and made me think that my mom was so old and did not understand truly what friendship was, and so on. And so on. So the one thing, though, that we learn from our experiences is, with my daughter, the one thing that I did not do, she was one of her very good friends. She was spending a lot of time. She defined this friend as her best friend. I had a gut feeling that this particular girl was not a great companion, a great friend. And I remember telling myself to be quiet anytime I was tempted to say, well, I don't like her, because or just so, because I remembered how I felt when my mom would tell me that she didn't like my best friend. And so instead we just had conversations. I often let her speak, and I supported her. And I think that probably helped her to open up with me, to the point where exactly why I didn't like her became obvious to my daughter too. And so it came with heartache, because my daughter realized that what the person that she considered her best friend was actually using her, and it wasn't the best influence on her life, and so forth and so forth. But knowing, I just asked me, why didn't you like this girl from the beginning? I just had a gut feeling. And I could see it, not because I was spending time with the friend, but because of spending time with my daughter after she had spent time with this friend. So you just, connect the dots, and you realize, well, she's not a good influence on my daughter.
Exactly.
And so that was where, I kind of let her navigate the friendship, and I was there to catch her when she fell. And she did fall, and it was really painful for her to go through the sense of betrayal, the sense of, why did I not see this earlier, and now what? Because she had to, she's young, she's in teenage years, she needs friends, and so now we're talking about boyfriends, and that's another podcast. But I do think that parents being involved, not trying to, have your kids' friends at the house, get to see, observe them, pay careful attention to those clues that allow you to see, are the people that are around my children influencing them in a positive or negative way? Are these people getting the worst or the best out of them? Knowing that, of course, we are imperfect human beings, all of us, and so it's not that you can blame other people for your kids' faults. But, read your children after they spend time with their friends, and you don't even have to ask too many questions. And then I love having my children's friends at home, because it gives me a chance it gives me a chance to get to know them, but also for the children to kind of get to know us, huh?
Right.
And they joke, we are the breadstick family, and they have little nicknames for us.
Family.
The breadstick, and feed them, and they will come.
Exactly. Well, my oldest child, you always say you stumble over your oldest child, and then the ones that come after that,
you learn
catch on to the results of all that. We always said he was notorious for bringing home all the strays.
Oh my gosh.
And it wasn't stray animals, it was stray people. It was, the kid that didn't have a family, the kid that was homeless, the kid that had been in trouble with the law, the kid that, it was just, we never knew who was going to come home with him. But, I always told my husband, I'd rather have them here and know what they're doing than for him to go off somewhere else and hanging out with these people that I didn't know their families. Even living in a small town, I still didn't know their families. We didn't have connections. He was always seemed to be bringing home these troubled kids or kids in trouble. And it just showed me what a heart he had. He had just a deep sense of compassion for people and didn't know how to handle it always in the best way. So we did the best we could to try to help him through that. We've fed and housed and clothed kids that weren't ours, and even took one to the sheriff's department to so he could tell them who really did a shooting or something like that, and here I am trucking along behind all these deputy sheriffs trying to prove that this kid knows what he's talking about, which I believed him, and they didn't want to, but that's, we'll leave that to the true crime podcast. Won't go into it now. But it just, you have to spend time with your kids yourself.
Yes.
to know what kind of friends they are drawn to and what kind of friends are drawn to them. And as you said, your daughter ended up in a friendship that was draining her, that what I call a toxic friendship. I have dealt with that with one of my children who always seems to get in the toxic relationships, the toxic friendships, the ones where she ends up being the one having to spend her gas and her meager financial income to feed them, and like and they're adults. All my kids are adults now, but I still have to stop myself from saying, leave that person alone. Just get them out of your life. They're toxic. They're mooching off of you. They are taking advantage of you. It's hard to step back even when your kids are grown and they should know better by now. But I think back to when I was 24, 25, 26. I didn't know at all about friendships then either. And it's such a trial and error thing.
Yes.
If life came with a handbook on friendships to say, okay, this is how you know when somebody's going to be a good friend, and this is how you know, it's exactly what you said at the beginning of this podcast. It's hard to define friendship because so much of it is based on the circumstances that you find yourself in.
Right.
You think about the people on the deserted island. The people on the deserted island have a common tragedy going on, and they bond. Do they stay friends after that? I don't know. If they get rescued. But if you find yourselves in common situations with strangers, there's a tendency to bond there, and there's what I like to call a short-term friendship. Mm-hmm. It's the necessity of the moment kind of friendship, which those are always interesting to step back and look at. And if we could just get our kids to understand, they're going to have a lot of those over life. Let's take the idea of the kids' friends and switch it. Should your kids know about your friendships?
Meaning, should they know my friends?
Should they know your friends? Should they be aware of your friendships and who you're friends with? Do you think it's important or not important?
I think it is. I mean, in my case, my kids have, well, it's kind of interesting. You talked about common things. If you think about my best friends are, from really a stage of life that we shared, that is early years of parenthood. And so we came together accidentally, but then we realized, oh shoot, our kids were born 4 days apart. And now we get to raise them together, truly like a village. Mm-hmm. And so what happened is that my best friends had children who were best friends with my children. And so it became a very harmonious, dysfunctional, super fun group of friends. And so, of course, my children knew who my friends were because they would call them auntie. And they were involved. And because, in this definition of friendship that I don't like to give you, but I think about a friend that is able to or willing to drop everything to come rescue you was my friend when I was pregnant with my second child that at 1 a.m. in the morning drove me to the hospital because I was having early contractions and dropped everything, came out of the house, and then the next morning. Anyways, this kind of situation, the other kid who saw my friend willing to drop everything, I think that kind of set the standard. They know that these are friends that you want to keep around. But then you also have the short-term friends, the in line at the airport friends, and you're like, well, now you're becoming like, you're talking to the friend that sticks with you forever and the friend that sticks with you for just a flight. But my daughter said I could make stone talk. but it was fun to get to know people. And now, of course, it would be an exaggeration maybe to call those people friends, but there was an exchange, a precious moment, an exchange of moments where we were sharing a common goal, getting out of that airport and, you know, getting on our flights, or exchanging, you know, common knowledge, or maybe they're not it's like friendly encounters, but there's still, the root is there. They're friendly encounters that leave something. And in that moment, what did I model to my daughter? Talk to strangers. No, hopefully not. You know, we tell them, don't talk to strangers. But I model openness. I modeled acceptance. And the people that I just have in mind, we were waiting to board the plane, and there was this group of very diverse people in front of us. They're speaking a language that we couldn't really understand, and I broke the barrier of language to kind of approach them. I was just curious, and of course my daughter's like, "Mom, you embarrass me," and all of that. But at the end of the day, I learned a story that enriched me, because it was their story and what they did, and my daughter got to see me breaking barriers of fear and what will people think. The same trip, fast forward a flight, we're in Paris. I see this couple of us, you know, they looked Mennonites. I recognize their outfit. I'm very fascinated by this culture, and I, you know, thought to myself, I should talk to them. Turns out they actually lived in the area where I was going, and we ended up, since I didn't want to rent a car, or actually I had already booked the car, I didn't want to spend the money, and they were so kind and were elderly and gave us a ride over like 3 hours right back to the area where we were going. And they said, well, we're very tired and we would appreciate the company of younger people that might help us get where we're going safely.
Wow.
And in the 3 hours that we shared, we really shared life experiences. And it was just, again, breaking the barrier of pride and, we shouldn't talk to them. But I was just curious. And of course, you don't jump in the car with any person. That's not what I was trying to tell my daughter. But the circumstances were such that it was a gift at the end. This very short, momentary friendship that helped them get home safely, helped us get home and save some money, and at the same time, in the 3 hours that we spent together, we learned so much from each other. So, and again, it felt safe, and the people turned out new people that I knew. That's why I was okay. And I also want my daughter to know, you don't just get in the car with anybody, but there were very precise connections that through the conversation at the airport was established. And again, I was just reaching out, and as a matter of fact, I think I helped the elderly lady pull her luggage from the the luggage area. But anyways, so yeah, absolutely.
Well, you have kind of touched on a question that I had in the back of my mind that I thought I might ask you, just from the fact that you have traveled and you grew up in Italy, and then you ended up on the West Coast.
Yes.
And then you ended up down south.
Yes.
Culturally, you see a difference in how people approach being friendly or developing friendships?
Oh boy, how much time do we have here? Well, I actually taught a class on the Italian culture where I specifically introduced the students to the Italian culture. That is a culture that is centered on social life. Very, very different. And so the first jump from northern Italy to San Diego, West Coast, it was quite a jump. I found a very different environment. I discovered, and it was really hard for me to adapt, because I discovered that the concept of friendship was a little different. Friendships in Italy are come over for dinner, and you sit down and you know when you start, maybe you know when you start, and you never know when you'll end. Conversations that go into, the early morning hours are very common around food and some dessert or whatever you want. And so it's just a very profound exchange. And you have a few very good friends who do this, and it's typically around the table. And those friendships tend to last a long, long, long time. Also because people are not as, they don't move around as much as they do on the West Coast. So when I got to the West Coast, it was shocking. I remember inviting people over for dinner. They would come over, okay, what time? Come over at 6, and it was a timestamp, 6 to 8. And then 8:05, you can see them becoming antsy. It's time to go home, and that was it. So it was really stressful for me because I felt that I wasn't adequately, I don't know, entertaining them, and so they wanted to go home. They didn't want to stay, and so I had to understand that no, it was just a different culture. And then in addition to the fact that just the expectations were slightly different in terms of the time that we will spend together. I'm going to dedicate to you just a couple of hours tonight, and you have to book dinners, with months in advance. While Italy is very spontaneous. You can meet someone early on at the market, and then they will come over. Someone, I'm talking about friends, or someone just simply, some of your friends or family members will stop by, end up staying there for dinner. West Coast was very different, and then people move around so much. You might be friends for a little bit, and then they move because they just, I don't know, they got tired of the sunny weather, and they're gonna go to the mountains to experience snow, and so they find another job, and so it's just very hard to hold on to friends. Then I moved to the South. Welcome to the South. And I was very, very pleasantly surprised that there's more things in terms of social interactions in common. There's more things that we have in common here in the South with the social aspects of life in Italy than the West Coast. So
We like to eat.
yes, and living in small towns, you go for a walk, you think about now my West Coast mentality. I'm going to go for a walk, 30 minutes, I'll be back and continue on my day. And then as you're on your walk, you'll see a friend that's sitting on their porch. Come on up! And then you go up. Sounds familiar?
It sounds
and then
very familiar, yeah.
you sit down, they offer you, the proverbial iced tea. And then, 2 hours later, oh, you have not walked 10 steps, and then you go back home and you're filled because it was a very spontaneous moment with a friend on their porch. And this is incredibly valuable to me. So coming to the South was, yes, a cultural shock, moving from the West Coast, but sort of a coming home because of the similarities with this concept of, oh, I'll just stop by and, I'll knock on your door, you come through the garage, kind of very casual approach, which I love because this is what, being spontaneous. It's just, you don't worry about it.
The memories I have of many years ago when I was younger, and you did that frequently. You'd get in the car and you'd ride around to see which of your relatives, mostly, were at home. And then what we'd do, we'd have a porch visit, is what we called it. And you'd just stop spontaneously at somebody's house, and somebody would go get a carton of ice cream out of the freezer, and you'd sit, give all the kids ice cream and cookies, and porch visit for a while. And occasionally a friend would show up and join into the thing, and that's something really, Allie, that I miss. And we had some of that when we first moved to where we are now. We've been here for 35 years, come July, and we occasionally had people to stop by, just randomly stop by to visit. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen much anymore.
Right.
I am happy to see you and your husband go by and, waving from the porch as we're having morning coffee. And occasionally you can come up and we have our porch visit.
The porch
Visit with friends. And I've always said, two people that I've met that have moved into the area, because this is a transient community in some regard with the college, and instructors and teachers and professors coming in and out, and staying a few years and then going somewhere else. So we have tried to welcome people into the town and say, anytime you need a break, come sit on our porch, whether we're home or not. I'm not saying the whole country needs to come sit on our porch, but that reaching out, being friendly, often develops into friendships. And I think that continuation of that northern Italy, southern hospitality,
I know, right?
is still ongoing. And I really appreciate the fact that I can shoot you a text and say, hey, you want to have coffee on my porch? And you'll say, sure, what time? And we can set that up. And that's a pleasant way to develop a friendship.
Right.
Just in a non-threatening, gotta get something done. I can't have a friend unless we're working on something together or working together. Just a casual, deep friendship.
Right.
And the casual sounds like it's shallow and superficial, but no, it is a deep friendship. We can have deep conversation, and it's that time that we invest into the friendship. And I hope that we're modeling that to our children, that friendships need investment.
Right.
And that takes time.
And that's what I think. We are in this microwave generation, quick and with a purpose, right?
Right.
While the best conversations are unscripted. When you stop with this idea of the porch visit, the mask is down. Your friend might be in their pajamas, for what you know, or
and I often have been,
right? Or no makeup visits, or I'm not using my best china visits, or let me see what I have in the fridge kind of visits. But those are the best visits, because that's where you meet the real person, the real you, not behind the well organized, well scripted dinner. I mean, those are important too. I understand the importance of that, but I think that we have lost a little bit that sense of, let's be who we are. There is no pretending to be what we're not. And when you stop by unexpected, and then you sit down for a moment, you decide that that person at that moment is important for you, and you'll see that this level of openness, this level of new level of engagement, I think, because just truly sure, of course, not everybody might be willing to, hey, knock on my door, I'm here every time. We understand that too with the type of busy schedules that we have, but I think there is so much value, and I wish, just like you, that we could go back to that kind of spontaneity that it's kind of a little lost with the craziness of our life. And then of course you add COVID and all the restrictions that have twisted our minds and made us fearful of the other, that have complicated the relationship. So I think that as parents it becomes even more important, because we have a richer memory of the pre-COVID. And I think that at least for my children, who are still very young, during the infamous years of COVID, there is this sense of, now friendships are developed through text messaging and Instagram and all that technology, which again, it's helpful. I'm not speaking against it, but I think that for us, we have the memory of the porch visits, and we can model that so that our children understand that there is also a different way that they can interact, which is richer. I think that I don't know how many characters you can put on those social medias, but I think that a conversation with your slippers and a cup of ice cream on a porch might lead to a better understanding of each other than a couple of text messages and not screenshots, little poses that you see on those
That's right.
social media, selfies.
Selfies, yes. Well, it definitely, the friendships that develop on the porch are a whole lot more meaningful than the number of friends you have on your friends list on on Facebook or Instagram. Take note, folks. Yeah, those are fun platforms. Great to keep up with people. Great to vent on occasion, but cherish those friendships that are made in the coffee shop or in on the porch or just meeting on the street, and you take a few minutes to invest in those friendships. I want to thank my friend Allie for being here. Allessandra for being with me this evening on this chatting with us and sharing this Miz adventure on this journey. We thank everybody that's listening in, old and new friends, for joining with us and journeying with us. We're going to end with a quote today, our friendship quote for today. I think it's appropriate for our world traveler and our hopping coasts from one culture to another. This quote is from Billy Chapata, and he says, "Don't be afraid of new beginnings. Don't shy away from new people, new energy, new surroundings. Embrace new chances at happiness." And Allie, you make me happy. You're my good friend, and I appreciate you adventuring with me. And we thank everybody else for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes, give us a thumbs up. Become our friend on Facebook or Instagram. Maybe we'll get to know you a little bit better. And now go make a friend and be a friend. Thanks.
Bye.
Miz Adventures with Friends is a production of Depot Street Studios and Rocket 88 Broadcasting. Music clips are from Storyblocks.